Okay, are we live? I think that we're live. This is exciting. Okay, so, hi everyone. This is my first time doing a stream like this. I'm pretty excited about it. I will absolutely do my best. What we are doing today is we are reading this lovely paper here. I actually haven't read it yet, so I don't know if it's lovely, but I have high hopes. It sounds like it'll be interesting at least. The paper is Gift-Giving Intentions in Pan-Entertainment Live Streaming, based on social exchange theory by Zhang and Fang Liu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Either way, this is what we're talking about today. This is what we're looking at. This is so I think of course I do not take monetary gifts and stuff on stream. I'm not monetized regardless. But I'm interested to see what they find. This is, by the way, on Plus One. I believe I put a link both on Twitter and in the description of the stream if you would like to follow along. Plus One is a really awesome journal. It is an online journal and it's open access, meaning that you do not need to subscribe. You do not need to do any money stuff to access this paper. You can access it just fine so long as you have an internet connection, which is awesome. Unfortunately, there's a lot of really cool papers I'd love to talk about that aren't open access, but I think that this one is a nice place to talk about. If it's not open access, I think I'd rather just do a video on that to avoid, copyright concerns. So let's see, let's get started. So we have Pan Entertainment live streaming combines video with two-way communication and real-time viewer participation, allowing viewers to send virtual gifts to their favorite streamers. So they're essentially talking about Twitch and YouTube, what I'm doing right now. I've never heard it referred to as Pan Entertainment live streaming before, though, which is an interesting way to refer to it. I'm actually working on a video, I'm reading a paper for a video that talks about parasocial relationships, and rather than call it two-way communication, what they referred to it as a 1.5 directional relationship, because the streamer can share a lot of information and communicate very easily, but the people in the chat share considerably less information, and there's a lag and stuff. I think that's a very interesting way of conceptualizing it. So they're going a little further by calling it full-on a two-way interaction. But either way, I think it's really neat. See, drawing on social exchange theory. So social exchange theory, I imagine they'll describe it in the introduction, but social exchange theory is all about, transactional relationships. This study investigates the factors that influence viewers' gift-giving intention and live streaming from the perspectives of both viewers and streamers. Okay. So, the main question that this paper seems to be asking, which I kind of guessed based on the title, is why do people do things like donate subs, and why do people give donations to streamers? And the interesting thing is, I was actually really only expecting them to just ask viewers why they did this, but it looks like they're asking the streamers why they think viewers do this. This is something called a meta-perception. A meta-perception is when you're trying to it's your perception of how other people perceive you. I guess this isn't quite a meta-perception, but it's close enough. It's asking streamers to guess what their viewers are thinking and why their viewers are acting in a certain way, which I imagine if you're a good streamer, or you have a very big audience and you're very successful and you can live just off streaming, you probably have to have a pretty good idea of why viewers are giving you money just so you can support yourself, right? The moderating role of streamers' deceptive self-presentation. Oh, this is exciting. I think this is particularly interesting in the realm of YouTubers because a lot of us are playing a character. But moderating means that this influences the relationship. So they're saying that the deceptive ways that streamers portray themselves, by either putting on a character or putting on a show or something along those lines, influences viewers' intentions to give gifts. Right? The theoretical framework is tested using the Amos and process macro on a survey responses collected from 331 TikTok users in China. So the Amos and process macros, these are ways of analyzing data. I believe the process macro, I've only ever heard of it being in SPSS, which is a specific program you would use to analyze data, but we're not going to worry about that for now. And it looks like they're specifically talking about live streaming on TikTok, so not Twitch, not YouTube, TikTok specifically. And this is a Chinese sample, so it's unclear how the findings would generalize to a larger population. The results suggest that streamers' attractiveness, probably to no one's surprise, expertise, so on whatever they're talking about, if they display expertise, parasocial interaction, another thing I'm very interested in investigating, and the viewer's deceptive self-presentation. Ooh, the viewer's deceptive self-presentation. So the ways that the viewers are presenting themselves, not necessarily the streamer. That's interesting. Significantly affect viewers' gift-giving intention, and that streamers so the streamers are also acting in a deceptive way, moderates the relationship between attractiveness, expertise, parasocial interaction, and the viewer's consumer intention. Okay. Actually, I might zoom in a bit now that we're past the title so you can see this a bit better. There we go. So it's not just the character or the streamer's appearance, expertise, or parasocial relationship, it's the sort of show that they're putting on. It's the way that they're acting. These findings contribute to social exchange theory by highlighting the importance of streamers' deceptive self-presentation, so how important it is that streamers are putting on a character, in moderating the effects of attractiveness, expertise, parasocial interaction, and viewers' deceptive self-presentation on viewers' gift-giving intention. So it sounds like this is gift-giving intention. Yeah, streamer category. It's so it looks like they are specifically looking at Chinese TikTok streamers, so that's pretty narrow. Oddly enough, most of the open access specifically papers that I've found on like parasocial relationships and streaming have been with Chinese samples on Chinese streaming sites, which is interesting because the ones that aren't open access are more Western, but the ones that are the ones that aren't open access tend to come from more Western samples, and the ones that are open access seem to come specifically from Chinese samples, which is interesting. I don't think all the Chinese ones had the same authors either, so I do wonder if there's different norms based on the sort of region that you live in terms of where you should be publishing things. It might also be that maybe different governments give different amounts of funding for publishing open access information. I'm not sure. I know that my university does have a fund to help people publish open access, but it's like really restrictive and it doesn't cover the whole thing, and like there's a lot of requirements. Yeah. Yeah, I do think Chinese gift-giving culture is pretty unique. I did find other papers looking at like gift-giving and donations to streamers in other samples, like other cultures, but they weren't open access. The struggle. Yeah, it is interesting. And I think the type of parasocial interactions that we're used to seeing, I mean, when you think about like idol culture in Japan and like Korea and things like that, that's a way of interfacing with celebrities that we don't necessarily have in the US all that much, I would say. Like to some extent, and increasingly so with streamers in the US, but not necessarily with like musicians and things like that. Like we don't get as angry when I just wonder if that different way of relating to celebrities and so-called idols might be playing into this here. Like I'm thinking, ever since I saw this paper, I've been thinking a bit of Uruha Rusha, and the whole like boyfriend experience, girlfriend experience thing. Like that seems like part of this it could be part of this deceptive self-presentation thing they're talking about, and it certainly seems like something that would influence this, but I imagine it works with certain types of cultures and audiences more than others because of the expectations that we have for entertainers. But yeah, definitely interpreting with caution. And this is a sample of 331, so that's not like a bad sample size. It really is a pretty decent sample size. Yeah, either way. Oh, you know, one thing I don't like about Plos is how they have all the figures here. I guess we can see the figures later. Do I want to spoil myself? I don't know if I want to spoil myself on these figures, but I'm seeing some nice interactions. But I don't think I'll be able to interpret them, because I don't actually know. Oh, whoa. Zoom out. I don't actually... How do I get out of here? How do I escape? Uh-oh. This is what I get for... There we go. Yeah, I won't spoil myself. I will be good. and mainly because I don't know what those acronyms they're using in that figure stand for. Okay. All this information. This is a fairly recent paper. It was published last year. Oh, it was published. Okay, so they finished the manuscript and submitted the manuscript in September of last year, and it was accepted last December and published this January. All right, so pretty recent stuff. Funding. Huh. So the funders had no role in this stuff. It looks like some organization of the Chinese government, the province, to introduce overseas students funding, the provincial, whatever. Probably not super important. Maybe, I don't know. And no competing interests, so they don't have a financial interest in the outcome of this, it looks like, at least as far as they say. Okay, I'm going to read the introduction because I'm not familiar with this literature. If it's something that I'm really familiar with, I usually skip a lot of the introduction, but here I don't know this. So, live streaming, and also this could interest, maybe the things that they mentioned in the introduction could give us some insight into like the sort of cultural background that they're coming from when it comes to this stuff, because I know that the sort of platforms that are used, Chinese live streamers use very different platforms than sort of more Western, say, American streamers. So they use like Bilibili, and in this case, TikTok. Emerges a new social medium by combining media and video with two-way communication and real-time viewer participation. I said this earlier, but I'm still really obsessed with that one parasocial relationship paper that I'm reading. Its way of describing this is not a two-way relationship, but a 1.5-way relationship. I'm so excited to talk about that, but I need to find time to finish reading it. Social media users in China flock to live streaming in large numbers. Citation. Let's see. Oh, this one's published in Frontiers. I forget if Frontiers is open access. I can't remember. Anyway, the 50th Statistical Report on Internet Development in China, released by the Chinese Internet Network Information Center. The user base for live stream, 716 million, dang, with an increase of 12.9 million users from the previous... That's not even the previous year. That's like wait, I can't do math in my head. No, that's like 6 months. It increased by like what? Am I reading this right? Am I doing math wrong in my head? It increased by 12.9 million users between December 2021 and June 2022? How? Was there like a big drive for was there huge advertising, or was there a big drive to get more people internet access in certain areas of China? What? How do you increase that much in 6 months for something that's already been happening for a long time? I don't know. That's wild. Anyway, live streaming platform research requires continuous attention. Fair enough. A lot of people engage with it. Representative platform of China's live broadcast, the original version of TikTok, one of the most widely used apps in China today. I didn't realize. I knew TikTok was owned by a company in that region. It had been bought out. I didn't realize it was one of the more popular ones. I guess I always assumed that Bilibili was their biggest live streaming site. I'm learning things. In China, viewers tune in for a wide range of pan entertainment. I really want to look up what they mean by pan entertainment. They haven't actually defined that yet, because I haven't heard that term before. Traditional live streaming primarily focuses on specific content such as gaming and personal vlogs. Pan entertainment live streaming, oh, here we go. A wider range of styles and forms, like sports, variety shows, concerts, which have generated intellectual property rights related to online literature, foods. Streamers give showroom performance. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is like singing, dancing. This is basically like a live TV show, but this is way more elaborate than like the type of streaming that I'm used to, than the type of streaming that I do or watch. Oh, talk shows, e-commerce. It's basically its own, like, personal knowledge sharing and experience sharing is stuff that I'm more familiar with, and I have seen some like talk shows. I know Iron Mouse does that talk show that she does, and I've definitely seen singing live streaming, of course, karaoke streams and stuff like that. I've rarely seen musical instruments. I know there's the 8-bit drummer, and his whole thing is like drumming on live stream. Dancing, though, I don't think I've seen dancing on live stream. To obtain higher traffic and user stickiness, so presumably that's user engagement, or like keeping users watching, keeping users coming back. Retention, I think, is the word that we'd normally use for that. Pan entertainment live stream combines the benefits of the pan entertainment industry with the characteristics of live streaming. Yeah, that makes sense. Viewers can interact with streamers by sending texts, emojis, emoticon messages, and even presenting monetary virtual gifts to streamers. I've heard of this, yes. It's really interesting to see just the graphic inner user face differences in these different live streaming platforms. I've mostly only ever seen screenshots of live streaming from like Chinese live streamers, and it looks really different just on its own with how it's formatted. As a result, the streamer's image could influence viewers' perception. Fan entertainment live streamers generate their own virtual IP rights and earn income from viewers' virtual gifts. So, of course, yeah, they rely on their viewers to get some monetary engagement. But this is their own IP. They're not like, they're creating their own content. They're not relying on other people's content, which I mean makes sense. But it's, so essentially we're kind of excluding reaction streaming, which I guess I'm kind of doing right now. I actually am putting this in my reaction playlist, because close enough. According to Insight and Info, what's that? Viewers of China's pan-entertainment live streaming shows were predominantly male, nearly 60%. So predominantly male, but not like, it's not a huge difference. So nearly 60%. I wonder how that, Anyway, and most of them are, so majority male and majority 24 or younger. Okay. As gift giving has become more prevalent in pan entertainment live streaming, it has generated interest among scholars and researchers who are interested in motivation. Okay, yeah, fair. This is a really, whether you're just interested in how entertainers monetize themselves, or just generally like economics and things like that, or gift giving behavior in general. I bet like gift giving people or really researchers were very excited when they realized this would fit. Yeah. Previous study have mainly concentrated on using stimulus organism response model, the SOAR model, theory of planned behavior. I'm not familiar with that. I hope that, well, they should go into it, hopefully. A theory of planned behavior and technology acceptance model, or TAM. I haven't heard of that one either. Like I said, it's good that I'm reading this because I'm not familiar with this area. To understand how platforms are used to sell goods or services and attract tips from viewers through live streaming. The identified factors for viewer tips in live stream shows include viewer engagement, perceived utilitarian, hedonic, and symbolic value of live streaming shows. So how much happiness is this producing, or how much benefit or is this producing? How much are you enjoying it? The symbolic value. This can be things like cultural meaning and stuff like that, but that's pretty vague. I feel like that's more general than I would like to see, especially as somebody unfamiliar with this topic. But hopefully they describe more. Or I could, read the papers. It looks like they're citing some papers from Western authors as well, which is cool. So this is like, they're pulling from all kinds of literature, which I think has a lot of benefits in terms of generalizability, but also it's like, do these effects replicate in your particular sample? So it's an interesting conundrum of like, this is what the wider research has found, but also does it apply to this particular culture? Hello, welcome, happy to have you. Unlike viewers of e-commerce focused live streaming, so buying and selling, whose primary motivations are linked to products advertised, viewers of pan-entertainment live streaming shows purchase virtual gifts to foster romantic connections with streamers. So they're specifically going for like that. So they're really, at least in this sentence, driving home the sort of boyfriend experience, girlfriend experience, parasocial romantic relationship aspect, and to display a good image to other viewers. Is this of or to other viewers? Because that implies different things. Or maybe they're just specifically saying romantic connections because that's what this reference is about. Influence of e-commerce live streaming and affordance on customers living. So this is interesting, though. A good image of other viewers. That implies they're not just doing this to look good to the streamer. They're doing this to look good to the other people who are viewing the stream. They want to be seen as a good viewer, as a good member of the community, which I have noticed people doing that in the comments that they give in, say, like, super chats and things on some streams. Like, definitely, it's not so much for the benefit of the streamer, or at least the action of gift giving isn't so much for the benefit of the streamer as it is for the benefit of the other viewers, which is an interesting thing to think about. As a result, research into viewing and gift giving intentions must incorporate more nuanced variables, fair, For instance, one of the critical aspects of pan-entertainment live streaming consumption is viewers' sense of presence, which has do they mean sense of presence, like sense of being present in the stream, or are they talking about self-presentation? Because I think those are two different things. I mean, this is one of the horrible things that is kind of inherent to how psychology is currently set up, you know, where English is the de facto language in psychology, which means a lot of people are writing in their second language to get publications, which makes it like I can't tell if this is meant to refer to their sense of being present in the stream or if it's how they're presenting themselves. But like, you know, it can't be helped. That's just the eternal struggle, isn't it? So self-presentation, of course, is how you're presenting yourself, how you're trying to make other people see you. So they're doing this both from the respect of like self-presentation in terms of how the other chatters view you, but also self-presentation in terms of how the streamer views you based on your message. The one-sided relationship where a viewer extends emotion. Okay, and they're defining parasocial interactions. A viewer extends emotional energy, interest, and time to a live streamer, while the live streamer is unaware of the viewer. And that's the other interesting, I'm gonna keep saying this, but the live streamer isn't entirely unaware of the viewer. Like, live streamers, of course, can tell how many people are currently viewing their stream and they can see the chat. So it's not as if it's a complete two-way interaction, but like that paper that I'm reading says, it's a 1.5-way interaction. It's not a one-way path, but it's also not two ways entirely. Anyway, it strengthens the connection between streamers and their viewers. TikTok, a famous live streaming app, has become ubiquitous, allowing users to establish an online persona that may or may not reflect their true identity. I feel like, and I think they're really driving home that this goes not just for the streamers, but also for the viewers. Both the viewers and the streamers are, to an extent, putting on a performance. I think is a really cool observation. I never really thought of it that way, but you know what? That is so correct. In the context of online interactions, users may develop deceptive self-presentation. In other words, an individual's intentional and strategic presentation of false or misleading information about himself or herself, and especially in the context of online dating. I wonder if they're saying that because they're focusing on the relationship, the romantic parasocial type of aspect, or if that's just where most of this has been studied before. Because I mean, it makes sense that like this would be some, like how you present yourself, self-presentation online would be a major field of study for like online dating apps and things, and maybe not as studied in other contexts because people might not be as interested in other contexts. But I think this is a really interesting context to look at it. I'm rambling anyway. Meanwhile, in context of pan-entertainment live streaming, streamers who want to increase their attractiveness, because if you're more attractive, you get more money, will engage in deceptive self-presentations during live streaming, like using beauty cameras and creating a perfect persona. So you could almost think, I think I would argue that a lot of, not all certainly, but a lot of like live 2D and VTuber avatars are essentially beauty cameras. Like, we're presenting ourselves in a way that is probably, I mean, you see how some of these VTuber models look, right? Like the exaggerated proportions, whether it's male VTubers or female VTubers or non-binary VTubers, you know. I think it's effectively serving as that, and you know what? I agree. I cannot tell you how like ragged I look right now, but you can't tell. You can't tell at all. Anyway. And creating a perfect persona, so putting on a personality, playing a character, whether that's acting nicer than you are in real life and so on. Yes! Oh man, that's right. I keep meaning to email her, but there's this awesome researcher who's looking at, she wasn't thinking about it in the context of VTubers, but she was looking at the choices that people make when creating digital avatars for themselves. Oh, yeah, there is that as well. The unspoken understanding that the VTuber is not the person underneath, which I think is another interesting, there's a bit of fiction there. I think there's also kind of that understanding for, you know, flesh tubers, but I think it's a little, the line's blurrier for flesh tubers than it is for VTubers, because VTubers are often displaying, like, clearly a very fictionalized version of themselves. Like, yeah, honest faking versus dishonest faking. That's right. Though depending on which sort of like beauty camera you're using, these things can be very, very obvious sometimes. But it definitely is an interesting distinction, and I would love to see more research about VTubers, but I think I'm gonna have to be the one to do it. I did try and trick somebody into doing a little bit of it at the last conference that I went to, and maybe she will, but I think I'm gonna have to do it. That is true. That is true. The number of dudes who have no idea what no makeup versus natural makeup versus, like minimal makeup looks like is mildly ridiculous. Mildly ridiculous. Oh, there's a lot here. There's a lot here. I might have to check out some of these references as well. New grant proposal dropping when? Exactly. Do you think I can get Twitch to fund this stuff? Do you think they would give me money? I mean, obviously I could go to other grant agencies, but I think that would be very funny. Get Twitch to fund a study on self-presentation and online and of streamers and stuff. I mean, presumably they have a monetary interest in that, right? I'm starting to see why Psy has trouble getting through even the introduction of papers when doing these streams. I didn't get it, and now I get it, now that I'm doing one. That's true. Twitch is not being very kind to VTubers at all. The one on the other hand, the most recent thing with the, outfit thing, I think that, I get that. I feel like that's a bit... I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, Twitch does not seem very nice to VTubers, which is unfortunate. Maybe YouTube would fund me. Though then again, nowhere seems very nice to VTubers. Anyway, in contrast, viewers may also demonstrate deceptive self-presentation, online self-vanity. Of course, we present ourselves in a certain way online to highlight an identity status that is not present in reality. For interest, attracting the attention of the streamers by giving a large number of virtual gifts that do not match their economic strength. So giving money beyond what they can afford to spend, which, oof, you hate to see it. But yeah, they might be trying to make a certain impression or trying to make people believe that they have more money than they actually do. Oof. Causes me pain just thinking about it. Some even aiming to form romantic relationships with streamers. So giving money to streamers because they're senpai notice me kind of deal. Yeah. The need to close knowledge gaps and address practical problems drives our investigation. So they want to learn about why this is happening and what influences this. Limited studies that explore viewers' efforts to send gifts for the purpose of forming romantic connections. Okay, so they're really driving home the parasocial romantic aspect of this rather than just say parasocial friendship. And the streamer's efforts to attract gift giving through deceptive self-presentation. In this unique context, the study aims to answer two questions. So here's their main hypothesis. How do pan-entertainment streamers' attractiveness and expertise, parasocial interaction, and viewers' deceptive self-presentation collectively affect viewers' gift-giving intention? And so they're looking at both sides of the relationship, both the viewer's presentation and the streamer's presentation. And then how do streamers' deceptive self-presentation affect the above relationship? So they're looking at this as what we call a moderator. How does this other variable influence all of these relationships? Does it change them or does it not? Answering these research questions seems important as it helps unravel the dynamics between pan-entertainment streamers and viewers, especially regarding the antecedents of viewer behavioral intentions in pan-entertainment streaming. So this should help us understand why viewers behave the way they do, presumably giving gifts and money. How the different ways viewers present themselves in live stream shows, drawing a comprehensive. I just still think it's so cool that they're looking at viewer presentation, because usually you're really, really focused on streamer presentation, which is, oh my gosh, I haven't even reached the literature review. Oh my gosh. The value of the study lies in its examination of intricate dynamics of pan-entertainment live streaming shows where viewers are motivated to create desired two-way interactions. They're trying to make it a more personal interaction, trying to make it less parasocial and more, bi-directional. By giving gifts. Moderating effect. Yeah, they already said kind of all this. This is kind of rewording their hypotheses, so I'm just going to skip. In order to inform the design of future live streaming platforms and services. So they're doing this maybe this is because of their funding, or maybe they're trying to make this, like, get more people to pay attention to this, especially in industry. But they're trying to drive home, you can make more money if you understand this. You can do better user design if you understand this. People will spend more money on your platform if we know more about how this works. Which I get. I get it. It kind of rubs me the wrong way, but I get it. Like, you know, they want to attract funding, and maybe if some of them are looking to jump ship from academia to industry, this sentence, this bit of the paper, is a great argument for why people should hire them. If I want to be really cynical about it. Streamer traits such as how are they? I wonder how they're measuring attractiveness, because that's always kind of, I guess we'll find out. Okay, so this is in Chinese context specifically, so this would be good, because I don't know much about the Chinese context here. Unlike other social media platforms, social live streaming services are synchronized, ensuring that all users... I would argue that there is a delay, which has caused me much pain in the past. I wonder... I've never really watched live streams on TikTok. Is there a delay? I mean, I imagine there's at least a little latency for the sake of, you know, like, transmitting data, but is there as much of a delay? Or is there as much latency there, I wonder? Huh. Clearly I should use TikTok more, but clearly I should not, because I would never get anything done. In other words, pan-entertainment live streaming allows for real-time social interaction, or close to real-time social interaction. RIP Twitch VTubers. I already read that. What am I doing? What am I doing? Where am I? Viewers can post questions and comments in real time that are visible to streamers, and the streamer can respond instantly, or close to instantly. In addition to chatting, live streaming, viewers can communicate with the streamer in a variety of ways, including text chatting, team-based gifting, and team-based gifting, or team-based gaming. I read that wrong. I was like, what is team-based gifting? Team-based gaming. That makes more sense. So you can play games with the live streamer, which I have seen happen on other platforms. Live streaming has become increasingly prevalent all over the world. Due to the enormous amount of traffic, pan-entertainment live streaming in China has developed a new method of monetization, virtual gifts. I've heard about this, and I think I've heard about this on Western TikTok as well, with, like, buying people roses or whatever. Like, was it like those NPC streamers or something? If you buy them a certain gift, they would do a certain action or something? I'm really not up to date on TikTok live streaming. I do not understand TikTok live streaming. In recent years, an ever-expanding repertoire of virtual effects has served to bolster the perception of virtual gift-giving as a distinguished method of interaction between streamers and viewers. So virtual effects, I'm assuming that means, like, maybe hearts popping up, like little things announcing when a donation gets received. I'm thinking of more extreme things of, like, playing a sound when a sub comes in or a donation comes in, or, like, that one plugin that allows you to throw objects at, like, VTubers and stuff. It is talking about, this is a paper talking about why people give money to streamers. And TikTok being a streaming platform. Virtual gifts are more appealing than other forms of participation because they're visual cues and textual notifications. So they're easier to notice. It's easier to show off when you're giving a gift than just a plain donation. Every virtual gift, from a free star to 1,000 yen Lamborghini, is encoded with specially designed visual representations and textual messages. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, it's a showier way to give money, and therefore it allows you to self-present in a certain way and make it more likely that you're going to be noticed by the streamer. Social exchange theory. Okay, here's our theoretical portion of why they have the hypotheses they do. The social interactions between these pan-entertainment live streaming viewers and streamers can be interpreted through social exchange theory, cited here. Oh, so this is, I was expecting them to cite the original paper that presented social exchange theory, but it looks like they're looking at another examination of social exchange theory in live streaming and parasocial relationships. That's interesting. I wonder if that's open access, if I can maybe read that sometime. I guess I can read it if it's not open access, but I want everybody else to be able to read it too. According to this theory, individuals engage in social interactions based on the rewards and costs associated with the interaction. So we engage in interactions with other people based on the costs and benefits of that interaction. Fair enough. In the context of pan-entertainment live streaming, viewers may perceive streamers as social partners with whom they engage in an exchange relationship, which is probably a parasocial one, because there's not a true two-way connection between viewers and streamers. Streamer may invest their attractiveness and expertise in their interactions with viewers who reciprocate through investments in virtual gifts. So the interaction is the streamer is like, hey, I look pretty and I'm really entertaining. And the viewer's like, thank you for looking pretty and being entertaining. Here's some money. Here's a gift. However, viewers may only be willing to reciprocate in this social exchange when they perceive it as rewarding in terms of entertainment, social connection, and emotional fulfillment. So they only are giving these gifts when they feel like they're going to get something out of it, or whether they feel like the entertainment they're receiving is worth that gift, or they want to catch the attention of the streamer. They think that they're gaining something. This is particularly important for viewers who engage in parasocial interactions, in these one-directional interactions, and hope to catch the streamer's attention, which makes sense. In Penn Entertainment live streaming shows, virtual gifts are displayed in the streaming room dashboards. Once a viewer sends the gift, the dashboard will display their name and the amount of virtual money consumed. So this person gave this much money. I see that plenty on Twitch of like, this person donated blah 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 bits and yada yada yada. In Pan Entertainment, virtual gifts are displayed. I think I already read that. In turn, entertainment. Overall, social exchange theory can provide insights regarding the motivations. Essentially, we're both getting something out of this. This is a two-way street. Previous studies have paid limited attention to the role of deceptive self-presentation from the viewer and streamer's perspective. So how does putting on a character, trying to create a certain impression, how does that influence this? The context of Pan Entertainment live streaming shows, but the viewers and streamers may try to false or unrealistic impressions of themselves. I agree with what Phi was saying earlier too, though. It is really interesting because with VTubers, I feel like it's a lot more of an, I don't even want to call it an open secret, but it's a lot more obvious that the VTuber is pretending to be something that they are not in real life, as opposed to flesh tubers, who might be seen as more authentic. Oh man, I would love to look into this stuff someday. It's a really interesting... Anyway. Therefore, integrating deceptive self-presentation can help understand the social and psychological processes underlying gift-giving behavior. The following section introduces the development of hypotheses. So this is how they got to those hypotheses that they listed, or the questions they were asking earlier, which presumably will lead into their hypotheses, these guys. That's what I just read. Social, I just read that. Okay, attractiveness, expertise of streamer, and viewers' gift-giving interaction. In this study, we define streamer attractiveness as viewers' perceptions of the streamer's personality, appearance, and talent while live streaming. So attractiveness isn't just looks, it is also their personality, it is also their talent. So there's a lot more than just looks going into this, which I was expecting it to be just looks. So that's going to be even more complicated to measure, and they're citing something from celebrity endorsement. Presumably this is another paper that measured or conceptualized of attractiveness in the same way. Attractiveness is a determinant that can be recognized. Live streamers' expertise in this study refers to their specialized knowledge, skills, capabilities in creating and delivering live streaming. So probably not like just subject matter expertise like, you know, me in psychology, but also like things like their expertise in dancing or singing or playing an instrument or whatever it is that they're doing on that live stream, or like, you know, teaching how to do a certain makeup effect or whatever. Our studies have found that streamers have their own unique streaming aesthetic, area of expertise, and attractiveness that influence viewers' purchase intention. So all of these things influence whether viewers give them gifts. In the context of e-commerce live streaming, so trying to sell stuff on live streams, they've found that attractiveness and expertise of streamers are crucial factors. So attractiveness, we already know, you know, this is the peripheral route of persuasion, using incidental cues that are unrelated to the quality of an argument. Unrelated to the quality of an argument to try and sell a product, which may involve like having a very attractive person in an ad, even though that the attractiveness of that person has nothing to do with the quality of the product. So essentially, it's that. It's the attractiveness part is the peripheral route, and then the central route, which is all about the expertise of the streamers or the actual merits of the argument. That one is what's showing up. That one is what's showing up there. So they're essentially talking about how this uses both the central and peripheral routes of persuasion. In Pan Entertainment live streaming, the expertise of the streamer means talent and skill. So yeah, it's not just expertise on a topic or on a particular argument. It's also about how much skill they've got, how much talent they have that they're displaying in whatever they're doing. Personal attractiveness and expertise can arouse the appreciation of the viewer for the streamer. So The attractiveness of the streamer and their expertise on the topic makes the viewer like them more and appreciate them more, which motivates the viewer to give gifts. There are the following hypotheses. We've got hypothesis 1, attractiveness has a positive effect on gift-giving intention, which is consistent with the peripheral route of persuasion and a lot of studies on advertising that's been done in the past. We tend to be influenced by things that are not related to the actual quality of the product, or like, which I guess actually maybe that attractiveness is part of the quality of the product for live streaming, that how much this person is engaging with you, how fun they are to pleasant they are to look at. These are all things that might be related to the actual quality of the project. So maybe I was wrong in calling this perfect. Expertise has a positive effect on gift-giving intent. So both how entertaining this person is and how expert they seem at whatever they're doing. Both of these things should encourage gift-giving, which makes sense. These are both like well-covered things in the persuasion literature, which is a bunch of stuff that is used in advertising. So these all make perfect sense. Parasocial interaction and viewers gift-giving intent. Aha, we're getting into the interesting. Well, I mean, this is all interesting, frankly. Parasocial interaction is a simulacrum, oh, that's a word, of controversial give and take in radio, television, and the conversational, give and take in radio, television, and the movie, where the performer adjusts his or her performance or their performance to the expected response of the viewer. So you are acting in such a way that where you're very aware that somebody's watching you, and you're trying to act in that way because people are watching and you want them to perceive you in a certain way. This simulacrum, using that word again, why are we using simulacrum so much? That's unusual. I wonder if this is just like an artifact of the translation. Like if they originally wrote this in Chinese or something like that, and then they translated it, and whatever word they were using Chinese didn't have a good English equivalent, and they just ended up with simulacrum. That is fun. That is a fun word. Don't get to see that word too often. Anyway, conversational give and take is called a parasocial interaction. Media and communication studies have conducted to explore parasocial interaction relationships in a wide range of settings. So what's this? Oh, this is another live streaming one. This is another live streaming in China and virtual gifts one. This one is live stream, a variety of contexts. Here's another live streaming one, probably in China based on the authors' names, though we don't know for sure. Impulse buying behavior on social commerce platform. So they're saying a wide range of settings, but at least 3 out of 4 of these are specifically on live streaming platforms. I would have liked to see a wider range if they're saying a wide range of settings. Those are all pretty similar settings, I imagine. Anyway, in the context of pan-entertainment live streaming, particularly when the viewer size exceeds a certain threshold. What is that threshold? The interaction between a streamer and viewer may exhibit a unidirectional or one-dimensional. Okay, that makes sense. When there's so many people in the chat, it becomes impossible to interact with the chat properly. So it becomes less and less. So maybe it starts out with a chat as small as mine and a viewership as small as mine. It's a lot easier for it to be a very two-way relationship where I can have a conversation with people in chat, like I was talking with Fi earlier. But once you get like hundreds or thousands of people in your chat, it becomes impossible to interact with them properly. So at that point, you've got a one-way relationship, and then there's a lot of shades of gray in the middle. Viewers believe they are engaged in face-to-face interaction with and view media personas as real friends. This will increase personal attachment, relationship investment, and loyalty towards media figures. All of these things, feeling a sense of attachment to people, feeling invested in the relationship with people, feeling a sense of loyalty, these are all methods that, brands and companies use to get you to buy their product. So it makes sense that the same things would work with buying gifts for streamers. In recent social media research, parasocial interaction is also employed to examine user behavior in relation to brand attitudes and purchase intentions within the context of e-commerce, live streaming. While some scholars have investigated the role of viewers' text-based interactions with streamers, so specifically through chat, this is another. There are so many of these. What is this J. Mark Common that's where the journal would be that they keep citing? I haven't heard of that journal. Emotional attachments to streamers due to expertise in physical attractiveness and viewers gift giving. This explains through parasocial interaction, which serves as an imagined friendship-like relation. Though they were pushing romantic type relationship earlier. I mean, it's both. It can be both. Just weird that they're suddenly switching the focus. I wonder if they really don't have a focus. I assume that they're focusing on romantic parasocial relationships, but maybe Maybe they're just doing it more generally and they just keep swapping between the two. Hard to say. Intimacy or illusion in which viewers' desires or see, now they're back to romantic relationships. What are we doing? I don't know. Are we doing both? Are we doing one or would we be doing the other? I mean, this isn't a criticism. I'm just confused. That doesn't necessarily mean that hopefully it will be clear from the methods if they're leaning towards romantic or friendship. Building on previous studies, the study proposes the following hypothesis to examine parasocial interaction as well as interaction with... So hypothesis 3. Parasocial interaction has positive effect on gift-giving intent. So attractiveness, expertise, and parasocial relationships should all predict more gift-giving. Viewers' deceptive self-presentation. Okay, so this is all about the viewers, how the viewers are presenting themselves and how that might relate to whether they donate to streamers, which is, I think is, personally, this is what I find most interesting in this paper. I'm very excited about this. Impression management referred to as self-presentation, so how you present yourself, how you try and do a certain impression to others or show others a certain impression of yourself. Self-presentation prevalent and facilitated among online dating communities, so it has mostly been studied in dating context. They established that earlier. Maybe that's why they keep talking specifically about parasocial relationships in a romantic sense. Deceptive self-deception. Deceptive self-deception. The act of giving the anchor, so presumably the host or the live streamer, right? Valuable gift that does not match his economic status. So they're specifically referring to that act of giving more money than you actually can afford to give to make the streamer or the celebrity think that you are rich when you really aren't. You know, I'm just going to start skimming this because I feel like we've got kind of the gist of what the previous literature has been saying about this stuff by this point. So hypothesis 4, viewers' self-deceptive presentation has a positive effect on gift giving. So the more that they're trying to create a certain impression, the more likely they will be to give gifts to the live streamer, spend money on the live, in hopes of forming a romantic relationship or because of their parasocial attachment. All right, deceptive self-presentation as a moderator. So moderators, yes, this is the whole interaction. This is one thing that might influence the relationships of other variables. We like moderators here. I don't know, I like interaction. Maybe, is that silly? Okay. So I'm just going to skip to the hypotheses. Hypothesis 5, streamers' deceptive self-presentation strengthens the relationship between attractiveness and gifting. So, they earlier predicted that the more attractive the streamer, broadly defined, the more likely people would give that streamer gifts. And they think that this is especially true when the streamer is engaging in deceptive self-presentation. Hypothesis 6, this is all strengthened. So behaving in a deceptive way, presenting yourself in a deceptive way, just strengthens the relationship between all of the things they said before and gift-giving intention. So here's their figure for this. They think that attractiveness, expertise, parasocial interaction, and viewers' deceptive self-presentation, all of these things will predict gift-giving intent. The more attractive the streamer is, the more gifts, the more expertise the streamers seem to have, the more gifts, the more parasocial the fans get with the streamer, the more gifts. The more the viewers are trying to give a good impression to the streamer that may or may not be accurate, the more gifts. And finally, all of these relationships are made even stronger when the streamer is putting on a certain persona. All right, okay, now we get to the methods. Okay, where did they get their data? So they've created a survey. They got IRB approval, or the Chinese equivalent of ethics approval, so we know that they're not doing anything that's horribly unethical, hopefully. Well, yeah, they've been approved. Experts have reviewed this and said that this is an okay study to do. You're not traumatizing or doxing anyone. After obtaining the approval, we gathered... So this is actually more information than you would usually see in the papers that I'm used to doing. Normally, it's just kind of like you have to give evidence that your study was reviewed by an ethics board and approved when you submit a paper for publication, but this is way more detail than I'm used to seeing. Usually there might be like one sentence about it, and like a really short sentence, or there might be a thing at the top of the paper that the journal requires that says, this was approved by an ethics board. We've confirmed this. Okay. One Xing? So that's the name of the survey platform they use. Mostly, I'm familiar with Qualtrics, but it sounds like they don't use that in China, which, fair. Qualtrics did recently double its prices, which mean. Well-recognized and utilized survey platform that allows us to reach a diverse and representative sample of Oh, so it's not just, this isn't just where they're creating the survey, they're also recruiting their participants through this. So it's not just a survey platform, it doesn't just host questionnaires and surveys, it also has a pool of people that you can send those surveys to, which Qualtrics, which is the one that we use most, that I think psychologists use the most in the US, also has this service, but we don't really, a lot of us don't use their samples. We find other places to get samples from rather than using Qualtrics as samples. But these people use both the survey platform and the people that, and the participants provided by the survey. Oh, and diverse and representative sample. That is pretty impressive. How did they get a, well, I guess when you have survey platforms, they can help you make sure that, say, the proportions of, say, gender and ethnicity and things like that match the proportions in the population. That's what they mean by a representative sample. So this, theoretically, if it's representative, shouldn't be demographically skewed. Whether that's actually the case or not, it's hard to say. Sometimes demographics matter for certain things, other times demographics do not matter for certain things. So it's hard to say whether that's, whether it's representative in a way that reflects what thing that's relevant to the hypotheses they're testing, or whether it's not. Hard to say, but that is a good thing to have a representative sample. Response were Pan Entertainment live streaming viewers on TikTok, so they've got the viewers. Do they have the streamers though? Do they have the streamers? Because they were talking about the streamer aspect of it too, so they would need the streamers to study streamers' deceptive self-presentation, unless they're looking at viewers' subjective beliefs about how deceptive the streamers are being, which feels like a confound a little bit. Like if the viewer can tell the streamer is acting in a deceptive manner, doesn't that sort of mitigate the effectiveness of the streamer's deceptive self-presentation a bit? Or is that just me? I guess that would make their effects smaller, so if they're still finding effects despite that problem, that's probably a good sign. Anyway. While keeping the users anonymous, so that's an ethical thing. We need to keep participants anonymous if at all possible. Survey targeted individuals who self-identified as live streaming viewers by inviting them into a social media group? Survey links were shared in the social... I'm confused. So rather than just sending the survey directly to the participants, they had the participants join some sort of social media group first, where the participants used pseudonyms, and then sent the survey to them there? Why? That feels like an extra step. Did they want these people to be interacting with each other? Was that part of the study? I'm confused. So this is a two-wave survey, which means the participants filled out 2 different surveys 2 months apart. Maybe they were hoping to create a sense of community in this social media group to make it so people were less likely to drop out of the study, because that's a big problem with these studies that take place over long periods of time. Lots of people will drop out. It's an interesting method. I've never seen that before, because by the end of the 2 months, these people have been talking with each other and they're no longer a generalizable sample because they've created a community, probably, if they've been engaging in this social media group. I'm just very confused by this. We'll see if they have a reason for this later on. Like, why? We gathered information on attractiveness. So in the first stage, the first survey, but when they had just joined this group. Oh, stated that this is... Wait. So they're saying other people have said that this is a good thing to do. Common method variance. What do they mean? I'll have to look up what common method variance is. Common method variance. I'm ignoring that. Variance that is attributable to the measurement method rather than the constructs. I fail to see how that would address that. Because everybody's... So if it's a problem due to how methods are being presented, or... No, that would be a problem of how they're measuring things. But at the end of the day, everybody's still getting measured the same way. So that doesn't address common method variance at all, at least as far as I can tell. Am I wrong? I might be wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I should, like, read this whole paper. But that... Oh, maybe it's specifically they're trying to do it in an unusual way so that these people, because these people are coming from a survey panel, they probably have taken a lot of surveys, which mean they're familiar with how surveys are usually done, which might bias the way that they respond to those surveys. So because we're doing it in a weird way, they shouldn't be as biased because of their past experience taking surveys. What is happening? Like, it's kind of making more sense, but it's also not. I'm confused, but okay. Anyway, so they initially had 346 responses. That is a really good retention rate over time. Like 346 people, then 2 months later, 331. How? How? Final sample consisted of 325 responses that were matched, which included respondents who responded to both surveys. So all of these 325 responded to both surveys, I guess? And does that imply, because this number is smaller than the people who completed the second survey, that some people only completed the second survey? Yes, it would have to. Huh. Interesting. Anyway. Okay, so we have demographics. 75.7% of respondents were male. Wait. I thought they said earlier, like way at the start of the introduction, so now 75% of their participants were male. But in the abstract, didn't they say it was 60%? Wait, or was it in... Where is it? I swear they said 60% male at some point. Yeah. Oh, okay, so this is the demographics of the viewers. The general viewers of live streams in China are 60% male. Their sample is 75% male. But then if their sample gender breakdown is not the same as the viewer breakdown, why are they saying that this is a representative sample? Because it's not representative in that the demographics of the sample are off from the demographics of the population that they're studying. Weird. Maybe they mean representative in another way. Maybe they were matching it in some other way, like the region of the country that you live in or the type of content you're consuming. It's hard to say. Or maybe it was representative when they collected it, but men were much more likely to complete. Well, I don't think that makes sense mathematically. I'm getting hung up on this. Okay. Let's keep going. And 24% were female. Concurs with previous studies, surveys regarding the dominant proportion of male viewers, but yours is still more male-dominant than the actual population. Most responses were between 19 and 40. The highest percentage of respondents... Okay, so with a 6,100 to 8,000... I don't know what this currency is, unfortunately. Regarding total spending on pan entertainment live stream, responds with a total expenditure of... so most people were spending less than 1,000 of this currency, which still seems like a... Well, it's hard to say how much of, like, this income, what the overlap between people with this income and people who are spending this much is. Anyway. And also, that's only about a fourth of the sample. So here's our demographic table. This is a weird way of putting it. Normally you'd report the mean and standard deviation of age rather than just reporting how many people were in each age group. Let's see. Okay. So this is how much they spend and how much they're earning. I'm gonna try and escape from this graphic. Let me free. La 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 la, set me free. Get me away. Ah. I got out of one of these before. I can do it again. I can do it. Ah! That didn't work. What if I just did something stupid? Okay, there we go. That worked. All right, measures. So this is how they're measuring things. All measures, study were applied using 5-point Likert scales. Likert scale is basically this. It's a way of getting responses to questions. It's an ordinal measure, which means that the units aren't evenly spaced apart. If you want to know what an ordinal measure is, I think I talk about that more in my stats lectures. So they're all this is a disagree to agree statement. By the way, I know I'm so sad that this is pronounced Likert. I know the guy's name is Likert, but I want to pronounce it Likert. Likert just sounds so much nicer to me. But it's Likert. So I'm sorry, I'm going to say Likert for the sake of accuracy. A questionnaire was used to conduct an online... A questionnaire is an online survey. Aren't those the same thing? Like, you could say an online questionnaire. I guess the questionnaire... Anyway. Empirical data to research model... This is such a nothing statement. They could have deleted this and, like, nothing would have been lost. But I'm not their editor, so... Administered in China, back translation method to ensure the original English and Chinese... Okay, so translation back translation. This is kind of that thing that happens when you put something... Let's say you put something into Google Translate, and then you get it in... Let's say I translate from English to Chinese, and then I use Google Translate to translate the Chinese it gave me back into English. It's like that, except using real human translators. The idea is to see if anything was lost or substantially changed in translation. Because, you know, languages aren't a one-to-one thing. So you want to make sure the meaning is retained, even through translations. That's why we do this translation back translation. You translate it into the target language, and then you translate it back into the original language from the target language. And it's a different translator who's translating it back again, just to make sure the meaning is the same, that you haven't lost or changed the meaning of the questions or the questionnaire while you're doing this. Items used to measure each construct were primarily derived from prior research. So they didn't, for the most part, they did not create their questions themselves. They're using them from past research, so they don't need to worry as much about validating their measures, because other people probably have already validated. Some measures were modified slightly to accommodate live streaming. So yeah, they would have had to change the wording a little bit for these measures, because most of them, like the parasocial relationship, was probably used for more like traditional celebrities as opposed to live streamers. So yeah, they're going to have to change the wording if they're specifically looking at streamers. So the attractiveness rating, ATR, was adapted from this paper. The effects of celebrity endorsement. So yeah, they're adapting a measure for celebrities to a measure for live streamers, who I guess are a type of celebrity these days, but probably not the kind that this scale was originally intended to measure, especially because it's from 2016 and live streaming wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. Expertise is a 3-item scale. Okay, so their ATR is their abbreviation for attractiveness, EXP is their abbreviation for expertise. Expertise, a scale, community, okay. Parasocial interaction, abbreviated as PSI. So this is specifically, this parasocial interaction scale was specifically developed for live streamers, it looks like, based on the title of the paper that they're citing. So they didn't have to modify that. Viewers' self-deceptive presentation. Oh, this is a measure that already existed. Interesting. Gift-giving intention was a 3-item scale. I feel like you could just ask them, how likely are you to give a gift? Okay. Streamers self-depress. Wait, okay, so they're not asking the streamers if the streamers are putting on an act. They're asking the viewers if the viewers think the streamers are putting on an act. Is that what this scale was originally intended for? No, I'd have to look at it. I don't think that's an open access paper though. Is this open access? It's not open access, so we can't really check, unfortunately. We can't check how it was originally intended to be used, which sucks. Okay. Based on the research content of this study, reverse scoring processing was performed in the analysis stage to achieve... Okay. So reverse scoring is when you have a question that is the opposite direction of the other. So let's say I'm measuring depression. Most of my questions will probably be higher numbers mean more depression. So if it's on this scale of 1 to 5, strongly disagree to strongly agree, normal depression questions might be like, I feel very blue. I find it hard to get out of bed some days, where higher numbers or more agreement would indicate more depression. But sometimes you have questions in there that are reverse scored, and these are questions where higher numbers indicate less of the thing. So on a depression scale, a reverse scored question might be something like, I generally feel very happy, where higher numbers indicate less depression. And you have to, when you're analyzing the data, you have to swap the responses, the reverse scored ones, so they're back to higher numbers mean more of the thing. So all this sentence is saying is that they did this when they analyzed the data rather than having the survey do it for them, which is a thing that you can do. I'm not sure why they told us this, because I don't think it really matters for their results, but you know what? It can't hurt. More information can't hurt in this case. And if we want to check all the individual questions, we can go to their appendix. So we can look at how exactly they ask these things, which is nice. All right, how did they analyze it? Time lag method to collect data. So there was that 2-month period in between before their 2 measurements. I'm not sure why they did that, but again, it could be because of that thing that they mentioned earlier about people get too used to taking surveys can influence their responses. The common method bias, that's what they were calling it. So they used a single factor method to assess the severity. So this is a measurement used to figure out how much this bias influenced the way people were answering their questions. So to figure out how valid these responses probably are. Because, sometimes people act weird when they're taking surveys, especially if they've taken a lot of surveys in the past. Following this, we can confirm the model's validity, reliability, and conformity. Okay. That tells me nothing. They did confirmatory factor analysis to make sure that all of their questions were hanging together the way that they should. So all the parasocial questions were correlated with each other. All the attractiveness questions were correlated with each other. Fair enough. And then they used the process macro, which is a way of analyzing data to test moderation. Do you have to use the process macro for moderation? I thought that was mediation. Moderation can just be a interaction, can't it? They could have just used like a regression or something. Do they have to use? I've never used the process macro, so it's entirely possible I'm wrong about that. I could be wrong, but I thought that was for mediation, not moderation. Process macro. I use R. I think process macros. Oh, it can be used for mediation, moderation, and other things. So, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. Never mind. We're good. All right, reliability and validity. Were their scales good measures? Let's find out. Okay. The measurement model is adequate. It's weird. I've never seen measurement reported in this way before. It feels strange. The fitting degree of measurement model in this study, chi-square, CFI, RMSEA, indicating the structural validity of the studies. I've never seen this done before. I don't understand what they're doing here, or like I get that chi-square is used to test the fit of the model, but how did they create this model, and what are they comparing their measures to, and how did they create a model out of their I'm just very confused by this whole part thing. Cronbach's alpha and composite reliability, CR. So Cronbach's alpha is a thing used to make sure that all of the items in a single scale are measuring the same thing. So I have 5 questions measuring depression. All of them are asking about depression in different ways. Cronbach's alpha being above 0.7 would say, we're reasonably sure that all 5 of these depression questions are asking about depression, and they're not asking about different but related things. The assessment relies on factor load and the average variance explained. This is just a weird way of doing things that I'm very much not used to seeing. It's not the norm in the type of papers that I would typically be reading. 6 latent constructs. So essentially they're saying we threw all of our items in a bin, ignoring which scale they came from. We looked at how those items related to each other, and we were able to recreate the scales that we put in, which makes sense. These scales had already been validated, so they probably didn't need to do this, but they did it anyway, so good for them. And then just, this is all validation stuff. This is their factor loadings and stuff for the scale. It's just saying, hey, check it out. What we did, these are all the items. So look, whoa. So we should be seeing that if their scales are good, yeah, all of the items that loaded on to, so is this, okay, so what I really care about, what I have this time interpreting is these Cronbach's alpha. And these should all be above 0.7 for each scale for that scale to be a good scale. Looks like all of them are pretty high. All of them are like, is 0.88 the lowest one? I'm sorry, I keep zooming in. So that indicates that all these scales have good reliability. These are all just measures of reliability of these scales, whether these are good scales that are measuring what they think they're doing. Factor loadings, all of these are saying how much does this item relate to the rest of the items on the scale? How closely related is it? So those are all good. Yeah, all these factor loadings are pretty darn good, so that's good. Yeah, all these scales are fine. I really don't think that they needed to go this far. But, you know, it's always good to know that your measures are doing well. That's a good thing. Correlations. I love correlation tables. Let's look at the correlation table. Okay. So, gender. Okay, the gender one is useless because I don't know how they coded gender. So, gender is a nominal variable. That means they could have put men first or women first. They could have coded men as 1 and women as 2, or women as 1 and men as 2. Without that, but they did have more men than women, which means that the mean should be closer to the men than the women, which, if it's 1 and 2, the mean is closer to 1 than 2, which means that men were coded as 1, women were coded as 2. Standard deviation means nothing. This is, you really shouldn't be doing a mean and a standard deviation of a nominal variable like this. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so gender was negatively correlated with age. Higher numbers are gender indicate women. Higher numbers on age indicate older. So that means since they're negatively correlated, this should be easy, but my brain's farting out on me right now because this is, you shouldn't be doing correlations with nominal variables like gender. What does that even, oh my gosh. Like, I get why they did it because it makes it easier to put it all in one table, but what? My brain is just not liking this right now. And how is the mean of age 2.49? What? That's not possible. Did they do some sort of transformation on this data? Oh, thank you so much. Thanks so much. I designed it myself. I'm really proud of my model. Yeah, I don't understand what these means are anymore. If income's 3.6, did they? All the income ranges they were giving you in the thousands, so how is their mean for income 3.0? What is happening? Where are these numbers coming from? I was so excited about this table, and now I don't know what's going on. Let's just look at the correlations. Let's look at the correlations and assume that they're doing it right. Okay. So income was not related to gender. Interesting. Income was related to age, though, so the older the participant was, the more money they were making. The amount they were spending was not related to gender, age, or income. So that's kind of interesting that the amount that they were spending was not related to how much money that they had coming in, which is interesting. The numbers, I don't know what's happening. All right, ATR, this is the attractiveness of the streamer. The attractiveness of the streamer is not related to the gender of the viewer. I'm not good in my brain. What's happening, brains, anyway? The attractiveness of the streamer was not related to the age of the viewer. The attractiveness of the streamer was not related to the income of the viewer, or... Wait. This is wrong. 5 is attractiveness. So this should be the correlation between attractiveness and attractiveness, which should be 1, because you're correlating the thing with itself. But what is this table? I don't understand this table. This table doesn't make sense. I can't read this table. What is happening? This is not how you set up a correlation table. The diagonal values are the square root of the average variance explained. Because see here, this one is saying the average... So they took the r squared and took the square root of it. So the attractiveness explained, what's the square root of 0.845? This is, I've never seen this before. So the R squared, the percent variance explained, oh, did that wrong, 0.845 square root 90. That doesn't make sense though, because all of this should add up to, I don't know what they're doing with these bits. That doesn't make sense. Unless they're using the AVE, average variance explained, they must be using some sort of effect size that I'm not familiar with. That's the only thing that makes sense. Okay. Expertise. Expertise, is that correlated with attractiveness? Yes. The more expert the streamer was perceived as at whatever they were doing, whether that was singing or dancing or playing an instrument or playing a game or whatever it is, the more expertise they were viewed as seeing, the more attractiveness they were also viewed as. They were also viewed as more attractive. Zoom out a little bit. PSI, what was that? Parasocial interactions. The amount of parasocial interaction they were giving in. The more parasocial they were, that was also related to how attractive they were. The more parasocial they were, the more expertise they were viewed as having. So those two things were positively related. VDSP, that was viewer's self-deceptive presentation. So how much were the viewers acting in a certain way to be perceived in a certain way? Oh, this is interesting. There's a relationship. So the more the viewer was presenting in a certain way, the less they were spending, which I think is contrary to what these authors were predicting. Interesting. The more that the viewer was trying to present in a certain way, the more attractive they viewed the streamer, which the causal relationship there might be the other way around. The more attractive they viewed the streamer, the more they're trying to present a certain way. But of course, we can't establish. Whoa! I just dropped my glass on the floor, but nothing's broken, so it's okay. Sorry, I scared my cat. We're fine. It's okay, Mr. Kitty. Sorry, you're very cute. Very cute. Good boy. Okay, right. So, sorry, minor crisis. Okay. So, also, viewers were more conscious of how they appeared when the person was perceived as an expert, more conscious of how they appeared when the streamer was engaging in parasocial interaction, which makes sense. You'd want to be perceived as more... You'd be more conscious about your appearance when you think you have a relationship with the streamer. Your appearance, like how you're presenting yourself, how the streamer's perceiving you. The streamer, so this is how much they think the streamer's putting on an act. The more they thought the streamer was putting on an act, the higher the income, which is interesting. Exactly. We went to physics real fast, and unfortunately I have zero expertise in physics, which is probably why the glass dropped. Okay, anyway, so... the more they thought the streamer was putting on an act, the more they made, which is interesting. That's a small correlation. There was no relationship between how much they thought the streamer was putting on an act and how much they spent on the streamer, which is also interesting. And there was a correlation between how attractive they thought the streamer and how much they thought the streamer was putting on an act, which makes sense, I guess. No relationship between how much they thought the streamer was putting on an act and how much of an expert they thought the streamer was, which makes sense. You can't really... fake expertise. Streamer putting on an act and parasocial interrelationships. They were more parasocial when they thought the streamer was putting on an act. You'd think it would be the opposite. If they thought the streamer was being genuine, you'd think they'd think it was more parasocial. But no, it was the opposite, though this is a pretty small correlation. And finally, streamer putting on an act and viewer. So if they thought the streamer was putting on an act, they were also more likely to be putting on an act. And what's this last one here? Intentions of gift giving. So the intention of giving money or gifts to the streamer. That was not related to their gender. It was not related to their age. It was not related to their income. It was not related... Wait. Oh, okay. So this is an interesting thing about social psychology. Look at this. Their intentions, their self-reported intentions of giving gifts to the streamer, of giving money to the streamer, was not actually related to the total amount that they spent on streamers. This is a common problem that we have in social psychology research. Our intentions to do an action are often actually not really strongly related to actually doing the thing. This is why it's really important to measure, are people actually doing the thing, as opposed to just do they say they're gonna do the thing. Because what we say we're gonna do and what we actually do are not as related as you'd think they are. And in fact, in this study, they're finding that what people say they're gonna do is completely unrelated to what they actually are doing. Which means that this entire study, because they only measured intentions to give streamers money, they didn't measure actually giving streamers money. I guess they kind of did, but like, that's the total amount they'd spent on streamers in the past X. There's a lot of other things that go into that, like how much they watch streamers. Are the streamers they're watching monetized? All that stuff. So does this mean that all of their findings here might not actually translate into the actual act of giving streamers money? It's only translating into saying that they're going to give streamers money, which is a completely different thing than actually giving. So like, how much can we actually trust the results of this paper if they're saying that this paper represents why people give streamers money, but giving streamers money is unrelated to saying they're going to give streamers money? Does this paper actually mean anything? Oh my god, that's kind of a problem, isn't it? Oh no. Oh no. What can we actually take? Can we take anything away from this paper? It's only about whether people are saying they're going to give money, which is unrelated to whether they actually give any money. Should we just pack it up? Should we just go home? Oh no! Oh no! This one little cell on this correlation table and this whole paper is tumbling down. That's a problem. I mean, I guess it's still interesting what predicts people saying they're gonna give money. But saying you're gonna give money is not the same as actually giving money. Anyway, let's see what goes along with these intentions. If actually giving money doesn't go along with saying you're going to give money, what does? If you think the streamer is more attractive, you're more likely to say you're going to give them money. If you think the streamer is more of an expert, you're more likely to say you're going to give them money. If you think that the streamer... If you have a more parasocial relationship with the streamer, you're more likely to say that you're going to give them money. What was 8? 8 was viewer self-deception. So if you are trying to put on a certain impression, if you're trying to give the streamer a good impression of you, you're more likely to say you're going to give money. And if you think the streamer is trying to give a certain impression to their viewers, that's completely unrelated to saying you're going to give money. Oh. Well then. That's interesting. I genuinely don't know if I should keep going. I mean, this is still an interesting question to ask, but that's kind of the nail in the coffin of, like, does this actually talk about why people donate to streamers? It's only talking about why people say they're gonna donate to streamers, not why people actually donate to streamers. Wow. Okay. I mean, it's still interesting. I would say it's still interesting, even if it's not exactly what it says it is. Okay, so this is another correlate. What makes this correlation table different from the other correlation table? Will this correlation table show a relationship between those two things? Because if so, then maybe this paper isn't a total waste. So correlations and discriminant validity. Heterotrait monotrait ratio. What is that? I haven't heard of that before. Heterotrait monotrait ratio. Statistical technique used to assess discriminant validity in business management. Why are they doing business management? Maybe they are business management people. I donate to stream because streamers say my name and then immediately forget I said So you would be represented in this, where is it? Total spend. So for and the parasocial relationship correlation. You would go in here, kind of. but also you also acknowledge that the parasocial relationship isn't real. Like, you're engaging with the parasocial relationship, but you also are like self-aware that it is a parasocial relationship and not an actual two-way relation. That is interesting. I love the self-awareness there. But so these are the true correlations, and this is just a statistical technique confirming that different measures measure different things, which means that if we see a strong relationship between... Oh, they don't have how much you actually spend in here, so we can't see, because... Oh, bummer. That would be just another nail in the coffin. Okay, results. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. They're just saying that they tried to result. The first factor only account, which is less than most covariance. So they're not concerned about the fact. They're just saying that we're not so concerned that these people have taken so many surveys that it affected their responses. It seems like they're still responding like people who haven't taken a lot of surveys, who don't belong to a survey panel. That's nice. All right, so now they're testing their hypotheses. Direct effects of hypothesis testing were tested using this. Okay, so this is their process macro. It's just a fancy statistical technique. Okay, let's look at this. This will be an easier, at least for me to understand it, and then I can try and explain it if we can see it. Okay, so attractiveness is related to gift-giving intention, which is what they found before. So the more attractive you think the streamer is, the more likely you are going to say that you want to give them money, which is unrelated to actually giving them money. And this is moderated. So this is moderated. This relationship is affected by how much you think the streamer is putting on a face. The same is true for expertise. The same is true for social interaction, parasocial interaction. The same is true for viewers' self. So like basically all of their hypotheses are confirmed that all of these things, and these are positive relationships. So all of these things increase your intention of giving gifts, whether you view the streamer as attractive, whether you think the streamer is an expert, whether you have a parasocial relationship with the streamer, and whether you are intentionally trying to make yourself look good in front of the streamer. All of these things increase the chances that you say you're going to give the streamer money. But saying you're going to give them money isn't related to actually giving them money. And all of these relationships are influenced by how much you think the streamer is putting on an act, though it's hard to tell from this whether this makes the relationship stronger or weaker. They predicted that it would make the relationship stronger. So we'll have to read what they say to actually figure out if that's what's happening. The moderation results are reported in table 6, so that's what we just are. Here's the table. We just looked at the graph. Here's the table that they're looking at. This is an interesting way of reporting it. But, oh, they actually tell us if it supported their hypotheses too, which is kind of neat. They're saying this path, it was testing hypothesis 1, which was that attractiveness, how attractive you find the streamer, is related to how much you're going to say that you give the streamer money. And that was significant. And this supported our hypothesis. So this is really neat. I really like this. They're making it an easy way. You need to play up being surprised by the results so you can make more money. I'm not making any money. I'm not monetized. And this would suggest if I'm surprised by the results, then maybe my expertise is lower, is what I would predict. Like if I can't predict the results, if I'm surprised by what they find, then maybe I'm not as much of an expert. But what being perceived as more of an expert says people are more likely to say they're going to give you money. So really, I should be acting like I'm not at all surprised by the results. Of course, looking surprised in a thumbnail does make more people click your video. So maybe there's other factors at play here. So maybe being surprised would influence giving intentions. Who knows? But in the specific way they're testing it here, it seems like looking like you are better at what you're doing increases the likelihood that people will say they're going to give you money, not whether they actually give. Okay, and so here it is. Here's the other hypotheses. Does thinking the streamer is putting on an act, does it increase the likelihood that does it increase the strength of these relationships or decrease it? And they say it increases all of them. Yeah. So here we go. Here's the relationship for attractiveness. When the streamer is not very attractive, people are less likely to give them gifts overall. So x-axis, left is low, the streamer's not very attractive. Right is the streamer is very attractive. Y-axis, higher numbers indicate you say you're more likely to give them money. this is unrelated to whether you're actually more likely to give them money, but you say you're more likely to give them money. The boxes are high self-deceiving social perception, or high streamer deceit. So, okay, the line with the boxes is how much you think the streamer's putting on an act. If you think they're really putting on an act, the ones with the triangles are when you think the streamer's not putting on an act. And what we find, or what they find, sorry, is that when you think the streamer's putting on an act, their attractiveness has a bigger effect. If you think the streamer's not putting on an act, the attractiveness has a less of a big effect. So maybe this means if you find the streamer more attractive and think that they're putting on an act, maybe that thinks the streamer's putting more effort into being attractive and being an attractive streamer, and therefore you're more likely to compensate them for it. That's based on the social exchange theory that they talked about in the introduction. Whereas if you don't think the streamer's putting on an act, you don't think they're trying as hard to be attractive, then their attractiveness isn't influencing you giving them money as much, because maybe you think they're not putting as much effort into looking attractive, and therefore they don't deserve to be given money as much because they're not trying as hard. And it sounds like they found this for all of their variables. The more you think the streamer's really trying to impress you, the more likely you are to give them money, whether that's through how attractive they are, how much expertise they're showing, or how much of a parasocial relationship you have with that streamer, or how much of a parasocial relationship that streamer's encouraging. The more effort the streamer's putting in, the more willing you are to give them money. But you're always willing to give them money if they are high in these things. Oh, get me out of here. Which I think makes sense. You're more likely to give money to streamers who you think are trying. In whatever way we say trying. All right, discussion of key findings. The study builds a mechanism model of gift giving. Motivated by... This is just recapping stuff that we've already read. Okay, yes, of course. Any empirical paper should test hypotheses and do empirical analyses. This sentence is unnecessary, but it's just padding. It's padding. It doesn't negatively or positively affect what they found. It's just padding. Attractiveness and expertise of the streamer, the degree of parasocial interaction, and viewers' deceptive self-presentation. So how attractive you think the streamer is, how much of an expert at whatever they're doing, whether it's singing or dancing or whatever you think the streamer is, how much of a parasocial interaction the streamer engages with their audience, and how much the viewer is trying to look good from the streamer's perspective. All of these things predict the likelihood that the viewer is going to say they're going to give money, which, one more time, is unrelated to whether they actually give money. So that is consistent with their hypotheses, and they say, yeah, this replicates what other people have found. So we are finding the same thing other people have found. It probably isn't a fluke. This seems to be a pretty reliable thing. Are all these also in Chinese samples, or are these in more international samples? Well, this could be an international sample. This one is definitely a Chinese sample. This might be a Chinese sample, but it's hard to tell. This might be a Chinese sample, but it's hard to tell. So it's hard to tell if this is replicating only in Chinese samples or if this is replicated out of Chinese samples as well. So it's hard to tell how much generalizability. But it's still cool that they're replicating. Other people have found this. We're all finding the same thing. This probably is a real thing, which I think this is a pretty intuitive effect. So, hey. The study would further confirm the role of these factors. So they found that all of these things are true. All these things increase people's intention to give money, not actually giving money. And all of these relationships are stronger when they think that the streamer's putting on an act than when they think the streamer's not putting on an act. Theoretical implications. Blah, 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 blah. Contributes to the existing literature on pan-entertainment streaming, Prior research is focused on the motivations of consumers or social media-based theories. These studies take a viewer perspective to examine gift-giving intentions, blah, 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 blah. So social exchange theory, they're treating it as an exchange, but I think the novel contribution that they're doing here, that I'm not sure if they're putting this so explicitly in what they're saying, but they're saying that gift-giving in live streaming is social exchange, in that people are giving gifts in return for the streamer's effort of being entertaining and an expert and attractive and engaging in parasocial relationships. So they're treating it as an exchange of goods. People are more likely to give money not only when they see the streamer being entertaining, but also when they think the streamer is putting in more effort to be entertaining, which is interesting. This may explain some of the popularity of VTubers. I was talking with Fi earlier in the stream about how VTubers are probably perceived as being more fake than flesh tubers. But in this case, it sounds like being more fake or seeming like you're putting on more of an act actually increases the likelihood that people say they're going to give you money, which again is unrelated to people actually giving you money. So in that case, maybe, at least in intentions to give money, not actually giving money, VTubers might have a bit of an advantage. Or maybe I'm overinterpreting the result. I could just be overinterpreting the results. I'll have to talk with Fi about this later, because this is interesting. I think that he's wandered off for now, which is completely fair. He has a life. Everybody has a life. People can come and go as they please in these. The study also identified the effect of streamers to okay, so that's just what we've been talking about. Social viewers recognize the attractiveness and expertise of the streamer, leading them to believe that they have a unique sense of style or that the streamer's characteristics match their own. Parasocial interaction is a crucial atmosphere stimulus that strongly affects emotional state of viewers. They're just talking about how parasocial interaction fits in with social exchange theory. I think the overall take-home message is still, we like entertaining streamers, and we're more likely to say we're going to give them money when we think that they are intentionally acting a certain way to be entertained. Which, of course, I am making a bit of a leap there, but I think that's sort of the overall takeaway from this paper. Practical implications, so how can we use this information? The level of social presence and consistency, streaming platform operators can strengthen the ties between viewers and streamers. So essentially, their practical implications are not for viewers. They're not telling viewers what they can learn from this, and they're also not telling streamers what they can learn from this. They're telling the platforms that host the streams what they can learn from this, which I think is a very interesting angle, which goes back to the stuff in the introduction where I was like, hey, I think that these authors are almost like, if they were preparing to ditch academia and go into industry, this paper is a great cover letter. Well, I mean, I wouldn't use it as a cover letter, but it's a great argument for why streaming companies should hire them. And the fact that their practical implications are specifically aimed at streaming platform operators, when you'd think the obvious audience for this information might be streamers, because this can help streamers maybe get people to say they're going to give them more money. But no, they're going to the people operating the streaming platforms, which I think is a very interesting angle to take this. It's not the angle you would think they're taking it from, and I think it might say something about... Of course, I'm making a big leap here. I'm really reading into this, but it does make me wonder if maybe the authors of this paper are job hunting. But yeah, I'm reading way too much into this. Probably nothing. On the one hand, viewers can deepen the experience of parasocial interaction can be improved by providing features that facilitate communication between streamers and viewers. I love it when people say they're going to give me more money, right? Oh, actually, sometimes I panic when people say that. Oh, by the way, I've published in Plus One, which is this journal. See how there's this typo in parasocial interaction? Plus One does not actually edit your paper. You have to do your own edits on your paper. I think I did find a typo in my own published Plus One papers. This is just an example of that. Believe it or not, it costs almost $2,000 to publish a psychology paper in Plus One. And they don't even edit your paper for you. The reason it costs that much so much is part of it is web hosting. They're an open access journal, so anybody can read the papers for free, but they still need money to cover hosting all of the papers, so part of that fee is web hosting. Another part of it is all the people who are making the website run. But yeah, this typo makes sense, because Plus One doesn't edit their papers. They rely on the authors to edit the paper. And if you're submitting a paper for publication, you have probably read over your same paper like 20 to 50 times, and your eyes have glazed over, and you're no longer reading the paper, so it makes total sense that typos like this sneak through the process. I'm just thinking back to my paper, and this is just... It's a delightful little bastion of humanity, and like a hint at what's going on behind the scenes. It delights me. Somehow. Anyway, enhancing the expertise of pan-entertainment streamers and achieving heterogeneity within the streamer group, so making sure that streamers are all offering something different. Differentiated live streaming content can increase viewers' giving intention. So this is weird. They're once again telling the people who are running the platform and not the streamers what they think the streamers should do. So they're essentially saying, we think that you should advise the streamers on your platform to do this, assuming that it's the platform operators who are going to use this research and not the streamers themselves using it directly, which I think is interesting. I think that's an interesting way to do it. I guess a lot of websites like this do actually have teams of researchers and stuff like that whose whole job is to do research and read research to try and increase engagement. So maybe it makes sense that there's a target audience. It seems much less likely that individual streamers would be reading empirical articles on how to increase the chances their audience will say they're going to give them money than the platforms and the research teams who work at the platforms would. In that sense, I guess this makes a lot more sense of why they're addressing these, the people who manage the platforms and not the streamers themselves, because those are the people who are more likely to actually read the paper, even if it's maybe a little less applicable to the people running the platforms than the people using the platform. Deceptive self-presentation of streamers can increase the viewers. I think this is the most interesting part of it, because this isn't the streamers saying that they're putting on an act. This is the viewers saying that they think the streamers are putting on an act. And yet that's somehow increasing the viewers' stated intentions to give the streamer money. I think that is such an interesting finding. I think I'm definitely going to post about that after this stream. Limitations in future research. Limitations. Validated research model using self-reported cross-sectional data. That's the weird thing. They did this 2 months apart. So they did 2 surveys 2 months apart, but they're treating it as cross-sectional. Oh, my cat's getting mad. It's past his food. So I better wrap this up quick before he eats me. We conducted a test for common method bias, so they tried to get around the fact that this is cross-sectional data. It's not measuring behavior before and after. I do not think you're putting I 100% believe you have many feathers. Thank you, I do have many feathers, and they are a real pain to manage. Because of the development, I'm absolutely a Mothman. That is absolutely who I am. I work for Point Pleasant University. I'm telling truths, always. Because of the development of AI technology, virtual streamers... Virtual streamers, that's us! That's us, bro! They're talking about us! But I'm not using AI. I'm very morally opposed to AI, honestly, personally. So I don't think AI technology necessarily has to do with virtual streamers, though I know there are AI streamers like Neurosama. But, you know, I think that's a minority, a vast minority, have emerged as live streaming formats in pan entertainment. Future research can concentrate on the application of AI technology in the field of pan entertainment live streaming. I do want to do research on VTubers. I really do. Anyway, okay, so that's the paper. That's the paper. Take-home message from the paper. Streamers who are putting on an act are perceived as attractive, are perceived as experts, are more likely to have viewers that say they're going to give them money. I think that's the big take-home message here. My cat is now climbing up on the desk to try and get at me. I think the time has come, everyone. I think I need to feed the cat. Elfin, or Kitty, do you want to say goodbye to everyone? Do you want to thank everybody for coming? You want to say of course, now that I'm like, oh, maybe the cat's going to meow, the cat stops meowing. This is the life of a cat owner, truly. Anyway, okay. Well, thank you all so much for dropping by. It has been absolutely lovely. That was a really interesting paper. Thank you for experiencing it with me. I hope that we can do this again sometime. Thank you so much for coming, and I am going to go before my cat tries to eat me alive. If you want to read the paper yourself, the link is in the description, as is the full APA-style citation, and this is an open access paper, so there is no paywall or anything like that. You can read it totally for free. Hello, Mr. Kitty. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I will hopefully see you again in the near future.